I thought I had everything. Luxury cars, a penthouse that scraped the sky, a closet filled with designer suits, and a bank account so fat it could feed a village for a year. People looked at me and saw success, power, and wealth. They envied me. They wanted to be me. But they didn't know the truth. Money gave me everything. Everything except the one thing I needed the most: love. It all started with Nathan. He wasn't like the people I usually surrounded myself with. Where everyone else fought for my attention, Nathan never tried. He didn't care about my wealth or my status, and that made me notice him even more. He worked at a small bookstore tucked away in a corner of the city, the kind of place people only went to by accident. That's where I found him, an accident I never saw coming. I went into the store one rainy afternoon, just killing time between meetings. I wasn't looking for anything in particular. But then I saw him, standing behind the counter, lost in a book, completely unaware of the world around him. There was a quiet grace to him, something soft and calming that made me stop in my tracks. "Can I help you?" he asked without looking up, his voice steady and warm. I should have said no. I should have left and never looked back. But instead, I found myself walking to the counter, setting down a book I didn't even glance at. "Tell me about this one," I said, just to keep the conversation going. Nathan looked up then, his hazel eyes meeting mine for the first time. There was no recognition, no flicker of interest. Just a polite smile, the kind you give to strangers passing by. "It's good," he said simply, handing the book back to me. "But you don't look like someone who'd enjoy it." It was such an odd thing to say. People never spoke to me like that, casually, without pretense. They either admired me or resented me. But Nathan saw right through me. I bought the book anyway, just for an excuse to stay a little longer. He didn't say much after that, just rang up my purchase and went back to reading as if I hadn't been there at all. And for the first time in a long time, I felt invisible. Not in a bad way, though. It was refreshing, liberating even. I went back the next day, and the day after that. At first it was just curiosity, an escape from the superficial conversations and endless networking, but soon I realized it was more than that. I wasn't just escaping the world, I was running toward him. Nathan never asked about my life, never pried into who I was or how much I had. He treated me the same way he treated everyone else, and that was new for me. I wasn't used to being treated like I didn't matter, but with Nathan, I didn't feel small. I felt normal, and I liked it. Weeks turned into months, and soon we were spending almost every day together. We went on walks through the park, had coffee at tiny cafes, and talked about everything except the one thing that defined me: money. Nathan didn't care about expensive dinners or lavish gifts. All he wanted was my time, my attention, my company. And slowly, without even realizing it, I started to change. I stopped going to fancy events. I cancelled meetings just to spend a little more time with him. My friends didn't understand it. "He's not your type," they said. "He doesn't fit into your world." But that was exactly the point. I didn't want him to fit into my world. I wanted to fit into his. There were moments when I thought about telling him the truth, about who I was, what I had. But every time I tried, something stopped me. I was afraid that once he knew, everything would change, that he'd see me the way everyone else did, as a walking wallet, a ticket to a better life. And I couldn't bear the thought of that. Not with him. But secrets have a way of catching up to you, no matter how hard you try to outrun them. One night, after a quiet dinner at his apartment, Nathan looked at me with a seriousness I hadn't seen before. "You're hiding something," he said, his voice calm but certain. I felt my heart skip a beat. "What do you mean?" He smiled softly, but there was sadness in his eyes. "I don't know what it is, but I can feel it. You don't have to tell me if you're not ready, but I just want you to know. I don't care." And just like that, the weight I'd been carrying for months lifted. He knew. Maybe he didn't know the details, but he knew enough. And he didn't care. So, I told him everything. About the penthouse, the cars, the endless bank accounts. About the people who only pretended to care about me because of what I could give them. About the loneliness that came with having everything and nothing at the same time. When I finished, I braced myself for the inevitable shift, the moment when he'd start seeing dollar signs instead of me. But Nathan just leaned forward, took my hand, and said the one thing I never thought I'd hear. None of that matters. And in that moment, I knew, really knew, that he was different. But loving Nathan wasn't easy. My world didn't understand him, and his world didn't understand me. My friends kept telling me I was wasting my time, that love without wealth wasn't real love. Money makes things easier, they said. You'll see. But they were wrong. The more time I spent with Nathan, the more I realized how empty my old life had been. All the things I thought I needed, power, status, wealth, they were nothing compared to the way Nathan made me feel. He didn't need expensive things to be happy. He found joy in the little things, a good book, a walk in the park, a quiet night at home. And slowly, he taught me to do the same. I sold the penthouse, got rid of the cars, walked away from the life that had trapped me for so long. People thought I was crazy. They said I was throwing away everything I'd worked for. But they didn't understand. They didn't know what it felt like to finally be free. Nathan and I didn't have much, at least not by the world's standards. But we had each other, and for the first time in my life that was enough. Because love isn't about what you have, it's about who you are when you're with the person who sees you for more than what you can give them. And happiness? Happiness isn't something you can buy. It's something you create, one moment at a time, with the person who makes your heart feel full.